Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know this rush hour of September 24, Tuesday. I'm Risa Diaz. Starting today's rush with the biggest oil price hike of the year, which took effect just a little over an hour ago. Now, the question is, will a fare hike be expected soon? Greg Gregorio has the report.
It's the biggest oil price hike of 2019 by far. Gasoline prices shot up by 2 pesos and 35 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso and 80 centavos per liter, and kerosene by 1 peso and 75 centavos per liter. The Energy Department says this is due to the increase in global oil prices following the drone attack at the processing plant of Saudi's Aramco, which wiped out 5% of world supply. A lot of motorists had no choice but to gas up to a full tank on Monday. Meanwhile, the LTFRB is now studying whether a hike in minimum fare among jeepneys is in order. Since January, increase in the price of regular gas have totaled to nearly 8 pesos per liter. Prices were up by almost 6 pesos per liter for diesel and nearly 4 pesos per liter in kerosene. However, the LTFRB says they would need more data on price hikes from other regions.
At any time, there would be an unusual increase or decrease of fuel prices. It would invite the attention of LTFRB to review the current fare, public utility vehicle fare, for us to see whether it's still reasonable.
Meanwhile, some jeepney operators say oil companies' buffer stock should have been used to offset higher prices for the time being.
Meron tayong tinatawag na buffer stock, good for 1 month. At ito ay nabili nila yan doon sa lumang presyo pa. Bakit ngayon antimano itataas nila?
But the DOE dismissed any instance of price rigging among oil companies, saying their computation is even higher than the firms. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Meanwhile, a group of jeepney drivers and operators have another issue to deal with apart from the oil price hike. That's the government's PUV modernization program, which they claim is anti-poor. Transport Group ACTO says jeepney drivers and operators were not properly consulted about the proposed upgrade. Now, the group also believes that the government would not extend enough financial help for them to modernize their units. A transport strike is set to take place on Monday, September 30.
Endorse lamang po kami sa land bank. Pag in-endorse po kami sa land bank, yung mga requirement po ng land bank ay hindi ho kami papasa para pautangin at makapagpalit ng sasakyan.
Power players are now being urged to ensure their operations are environmentally sustainable. This comes amid calls to have climate change issues pushed to the forefront. Bim Santos has the details.
When governments across the world are under increasing pressure to address environmental degradation, the private sector's role in the climate change conversation is now also being closely scrutinized more and more. At the Meralco Power Up Forum series, Meralco Chairman Manuel V. Pangilinan noted the value of collaboration between the private and public space.
At First Pacific, as in Meralco, we embrace a broader view of governance, focus on sustainable value creation. This rethink represents governance in a collaborative manner. Meralco organizes forum because no one country or no one company can solve by itself these huge global tasks without helping each other.
Pangilinan said sustainability is now also one of the key metrics by which enterprises are sized up.
The shareholder value is no longer the primary consideration. It's not certainly not the only, it's not even the primary, but it's a broader kind of criteria by which business performance will be judged. So in other words, it's not just profits, but also the impact on the environment, our operations, the impact on social good, and of course the impact on how we govern.
Eric Hespenheid, head of the Global Reporting Initiative or GRI, urged firms to adopt their global sustainability standards reporting. Last April, the Securities and Exchange Commission launched the Sustainability Reporting Guidelines, which took a leaf from the GRI framework.
Reporting is not the purpose. Reporting is sort of an ends to a means of driving for change. Because what we're about is trying to illuminate those issues that ought to be addressed and ought to be changed in the sense of how we make our decisions about how we utilize our resources, including people.
Meanwhile, Senator Win Gatchalian, chair of the Senate Energy Committee, said he is looking forward to finalizing the implementing rules and regulations of the Energy and Conservation Act. The law, which was signed by President Rodrigo Duterte last April, aims to standardize energy conservation and promote the use of renewable energy.
Ang maganda dito, lahat ng stakeholders invited, including the public, and we're collaborating very closely with the Department of Energy to make sure that the spirit of the law is reflected in the IRR. So we expect that to be completed in the next 30 days.
The Energy Department said they are also closely working with various stakeholders for the release of the IRR. In addition to energy efficiency, the DOE says they are also in close pursuit of energy security by exploring indigenous sources through the recently opened energy contracting round.
We're looking now at opening up our energy resource development, both conventional as well as renewable energy resource, to all who are interested.
Bim Santos, we are One News.
The number of polio cases in the country remains at 2, but this is still too much for the health officials who are now scrambling to have children vaccinated. Jenny Dongon with a report.
Raquel Sape's son was vaccinated for polio in 2015. But when she heard about the polio outbreak, she immediately brought all her children to the Barangay Health Center. The DOH says there's no such thing as polio vaccine overdose.
Ang vaccines walang overdose, no? So kung hindi kompleto or kung hindi or nakaskip ng dates, ang at the worst, wala namang worst nga eh. Yung dagdag mo na bakuna, parang nagiging booster shot siya.
Aling Jovelyn, 49 years old, wants to be vaccinated but was advised against it. Health officials said adults have a very low risk of contracting polio. Adults with a very weak immune system, however, are urged to consult a health specialist. Because of a limited supply of vaccines, Yusek Domingo says children below 5 years of age are their priority.
Kasi yung supplies natin, kailangan unahin natin yung mga bata eh. Hindi pa natin pwedeng ipamigay sa lahat. So yung mga risk lang.
From June to September 2019, data showed that 264 children experienced an AFP or acid-flaccid paralysis, the rapid onset of weakness. 2 of them, one in Lando del Sur and the other in Laguna, were confirmed to have a polio. The DOH emphasizes that polio is a highly contagious disease caused when the polio virus invades the nervous system.
Mild eh, lagnat, masakit ang tiyan, pwedeng nagtatae. No? And then, minsan may masasakit sa extremities or masakit yung leeg, ganyan masakit yung muscles. By the time na magkaroon ng weakness.
The health official said there is no cure for polio, but he urges parents to have their children, especially those under the age of 5, vaccinated. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, we are One News.
The African swine fever cases continue to increase in Luzon, and now DA officials are pointing fingers. Shyla Francisco with a story.
The African swine fever continues to spread as an unidentified barangay in Antipolo City tested positive for the virus.
From the initial laboratory test, yes. And we are now implementing 1710 protocol. We will continue to collect blood samples.
The hog disease has been detected in 12 areas, including Rizal, Antipolo, Bulacan, and Quezon City. There are also quarantined areas in Central Luzon. So far, the government has culled 15,000 pigs. But for an international animal welfare group, the disease would not have spread if the government had been more transparent, especially during the start of the outbreak. The DA only confirmed the outbreak in Rizal and Bulacan on September 9, but the first case was recorded on July 25.
Within that 1 month, 1.5, 2 months period that no information is out in the public domain, then that disease was spreading already. At this moment, we don't even know where it is.
The group adds that there was not enough information on how the disease spreads.
Hindi lang po tao, pati gamit, pati kutsilyo, mga ginamit, pati yung syringes kung ginamit, pati yung mga sasakyan. Kung meron dugo, meron fluids. If I am a backyard pig grower, tapos I don't have information on what this is all about, then I will myself could be responsible for spreading it.
Agriculture Secretary Dar says he was not yet the DA secretary when the outbreak was first detected.
Did you ask the previous administration na mayroon nang as early as May? Wala nga, nangyari. Now we told the public once I received the incident report.
Former DA Chief Manny Peñol says no report reached the office.
It never reached our office. Kung meron man. Let DA handle that now. There are also problems that happened before I took office as being the chair. Am I blaming my former secretary?
Dar says ASF in the first 9 areas are now contained and that the recurrence is unlikely. Calling operations, meanwhile, continue in Quezon City and Antipolo. Shaila Francisco, We Are One News.
And here are the biggest stories from the dailies. 2 PMA cadets were confined at the military hospital after reportedly undergoing initiation rites. Filipino Star ngayon reports that the 2 were classmates of Cadet 4th Class Darwin Dormitorio who died last week from hazing.
Yung dalawang incident na yon ng mga kadete na nakakonfine ngayon sa military hospital are suspected to be cases of maltreatment. No? Hindi pa naman natin sinasabi kaagad na is case of maltreatment, but it is suspected to be such.
2 construction workers died after a budget hotel in Malate, Manila collapsed on Monday. Authorities are now conducting retrieval operations to look for the bodies that may have been trapped under the rubble. Now, Pangmasa reports that the hotel was or has been up for demolition since August. The immediate impact of climate change, you say? Well, as a result, farmers in Baguio have now resorted to making white instead of purple ube jam. The Good Shepherd Convent in Baguio, which is known for its ube jam, posted on Facebook that due to changing climate, particularly the effects of El Nino, farmers are having difficulty in growing purple ube. Now, for those who are curious, the convent says, yes, there is such a thing as white ube, and it tastes just the same as the purple one. Let's fast break now to Sports Rush. Tim Cohn takes on the challenge to lead the Gilas Pilipinas men for this year's Southeast Asian Games. Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas President Al Pandillo announced this on Monday, saying that Coach Tim emerged as the top bet for earning the respect of the whole community and for his amazing track record in the industry. Barangay Ginebra's lead tactician and now only has a few weeks left to prove himself and shape up the team into a cohesive unit that has a chance of taking the gold. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us again next time for another round of Rush. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.